adopt the agenda. Kind of a short agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt this agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Okay, next item, the resolution budget committee discussion and action. Any comments on
Do you have comments that you'd like to make before I read the summary of changes?
No.
Okay. I put together a list of a summary of changes for fiscal year 2018 budget. For this coming year, healthcare rates remain the same due to our inclusion in the state government healthcare plan and excellent claims experience with no high dollar medical claims during the past year. Also, VRS retirement contributions remain the same as indicated by written notice from the state of Virginia. The regional jail costs were reduced by $55,000 as a result of the reduction of staff. That's approximately 8 positions. Now that the facility is 2 years old, the new hire turnover has reduced. The state of Virginia has approved a 2% increase for compensation board salaries effective August 2017. This budget reflects a 2% increase for all employees for the entire fiscal year. Salary market adjustments are in the budget for several positions. The Planning Commission received an additional $200 for a total of $1,200 for well drilling of groundwater monitoring as requested by the Rappahannock River Basin Committee. This budget contains the anticipated salaries to replace Mr. Burke's 3 positions. This budget does not contain any monies for a litigation fund. The school board requested an additional $26,452 from last year's request of $9,089,098. The Board of Supervisors voted and approved the school board budget at their May 1st meeting for level funding, again at $9,089,098. The fire levy request from the Fire and Rescue Association shows a significant increase as a result of the addition of a medical policy and a workers' compensation policy for volunteer fire and rescue folks as approved by the Board of Supervisors. The fire levy budget is presented as proposed by the Fire and Rescue Association. Approximately $380 of excess fire levy funds above and beyond what was requested by the Fire and Rescue Association was included in the budget as revenue. These funds will go toward the radio project payments of $114,000 due in the first quarter, $152,000 in the second quarter, $38,000 in the third quarter, and $76,000 in the fourth quarter. This results in a balanced budget with an additional $2,708 with no tax increase for our citizens. This budget is scheduled to be adopted at the June 5th Board of Supervisors meeting, and there will be a Board of Supervisor meeting June 29th, 2017 for end-of-the-year invoices to be paid.
Any comments, gentlemen?
Yeah, I had a member of the Board of Zoning Appeals call me to make sure that there was some litigation money because they're still being sued, and our county attorney is not able to represent them, and they have hired another attorney. So is that? I mean, the insurance policy is not in place yet, right? That would cover.
Correct, it's not. And I have talked to them, and what we decided to do is to do an appropriation at the June meeting, and that would take some money from this year's budget and hold it over for next year.
Right.
But they're not being sued. Have you looked at what's happening there? They're not being sued.
What's going on?
Well, they
require an attorney.
no, it doesn't require an attorney. They want an attorney because they don't understand what they did to start with. What they did was follow the outgoing county attorney back in September and to scheduling an improper meeting. It wasn't properly noticed. So they were taken to court to stop that. And then they didn't like that, so 3 or 4 months later, again, with the same county attorney's opinion, they wrote this resolution, by the way, that he wasn't officially hired to write. And then they presented it at a meeting against one of their members. Well, it looks like they may have exceeded their authority. That's what the whole problem is. And now because nobody seems to understand what they're doing, they want an attorney. But they're not being sued. All that's happening is that the judge is being asked to rule whether they have the authority to adopt that resolution.
Well, thank you for that explanation.
So they're not being sued and they don't need an attorney.
And the other thing is with the jail, is that 8 prisoners or 8 administrative positions?
That's 8 correctional officers that are no longer needed at the jail.
And that's only, oh, I see, our share is 55,000, I got you.
That's the savings. It was reduced.
Yes, okay, thank you very much.
I'll reserve any comments on the rest of the budget till I guess after the hearing.
Wait,
All right. Public hearing is next. This is an opportunity for anyone that wishes or desires to speak will be given that option. Be recognized, raise your hand, and please stand and state your name and the district you're in. Please direct your comments to the board and try to keep your comments between 3 and 5 minutes. I declare the public hearing open. Anyone care to speak? Yes.
Kim McKiernan, Piedmont District. I'm just asking once again that my supplement, line item 100-4-0013002-1002-4 be rolled into my salary because it's a problem every year. Every year somebody asks questions about it. So I would like either, and it's causing problems with payroll, etc. I'd like it to either be rolled in or for everybody's supplement to be a separate line item. Please. Thank you.
Anyone else care to speak? Yes.
Page Glenn, Jackson District. First of all, a small little detail. In the spreadsheet, it shows the fire levy overrun, or excuse me, unused 380 being transferred to the general fund. I wouldn't do that. That's illegal. You can't move it that way to the general fund. I would just spend the money out of the fire levy. Just change that so you don't get into legal problems. The radio project that you're using that money for is behind schedule, so you probably won't be spending that money, but you're probably going to need that because your budget is awfully tight. You have no wiggle room. You haven't addressed long-term issues such as paid firefighters, infrastructure, what happens if you can't use this courthouse, and the radio contract overrun and follow-up. Because there's like $750,000 in radios you're going to have to buy in the next couple of years. So you need to start stockpiling the fire levy bucket, not depleting it. All right. So 2020 hindsight, you should have raised the fire levy tax. Your overhead rate is still pretty high, and I'll say it again. Last year, your format and presentation makes it very difficult for the non-budget weenies like myself to be able to understand what's going on. So I have some ideas, and we can work with those offline when you want to. Okay. And the last thing is, because you're so tight, and because of these future things, I strongly recommend you reestablish the finance committee. All right, and start getting a handle on these long-term problems. All right, because you're going to need a whole lot of defense when you show up with a big budget, a big tax increase next year. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak? Okay, Jenny, okay, so, any other comments, Madam Governor?
I would like to make a comment if I
Sure.
could. To address Ken's concern, I have your suggestions, I just haven't gotten with Debbie. Those are items that are done on the system, and that's something that she controls, and not me, but I have your comments, so it's not a problem in doing that.
I do have it required.
And then Mr. Glenny had a comment about the $380,000 in our budget. We can make adjustments. Debbie and I talked about that today, so we can put it as part of the fire levy. So we can do it either way, that's not a problem. So.
Gentlemen, as far as paying for the entire radio system out of the fire levy fund, that's a radio system that's shared by the sheriff's department and the school system. I'm not even sure that we can do that legally. But we had asked for an attorney general, opinion from the attorney general, but we didn't get it as to what we can actually use that money for. And I think we would have been closer to staying on the legal side of things had we gotten that. As it is, if we continue down this road, we may be violating state statute. What do you think, Mr. Parrish?
Oh, I think that the money in the fire levy, came from the taxpayers. It's directly related to operation and maintenance of public safety. I think that if that it's basically an opportunity for the beneficiaries of the fire levy tax to share with the rest of the county. I really don't see any reason to tax the taxpayers again.
But what the statute
Tax
says,
they've already paid for public safety. That's my
it
opinion.
doesn't say public safety. The fire levy statute says for maintenance and operations of fire departments.
Right. And obviously, radios and a pager system is operation.
Well, the pager system would be for the fire departments, but the radios are being used by 3 different agencies.
Including the fire departments. So they have, this gives them an opportunity to share with the rest of the county. So yes, my opinion, that's what it is. Thank you.
But, our opinions aren't worth much.
True. We just had a vote, that's about it.
We asked for an official opinion, we didn't get one.
Well, we still got a vote.
Well, it seems to me that if we didn't use the rollover funds to offset the cost of the radios, which is I realize it's not a one-time event, it's a contract that goes over a few years. We probably have to have a 2-cent tax increase to cover it. Or we'd have to take on debt. So I've heard this before about a shared responsibility between the schools and fire and rescue and emergency responders, but I don't know if I've ever seen that anywhere. Maybe it's a verbal understanding, but I would hope, as Mr. Parrish said, that people realize this is going to public safety, and that all these 3 entities are going to benefit from this, and that they need it. And maybe if one group doesn't get everything that they wanted this year, that they'd be willing to give in a little bit for the benefit of others, so school buses can have radios on them, for example. So I understand your points, Mr. Frazier, but I really think since taxpayers have already put money in toward public safety, I would rather use the money they put in and tax them a higher rate or take on debt. We can do this with we can do this without raising taxes, I think we should do it.
But you're bankrupting that one fund.
Oh, not bankrupting it, I don't believe. Bankrupting, to me, means taking out more than what you have in it.
You're taking out everything it is in it.
Well, that's utilizing it to its fullest
But I'm
capability.
just saying, without a controlling legal opinion, we're actually, running in the dark here. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that we should have done it with a full legal understanding of whether we can or not. We don't have that.
Well, I do agree that, I do believe that this is part of operations. I do, and I understand your point. No, you said for maintenance and operations.
It says for maintenance operations of the fire departments. It's the very same radio system that's being used for the school buses and the sheriff's department. And how you make that stretch is something I don't understand.
Well, you said that you didn't have a problem with doing it, you just want to make sure that it's legal. And we got the opinion of the county attorney, and his opinion that it is legal. I'm not arbitrarily saying that he's necessarily right, but we have the opinion of our county attorney. And so I think it's not irresponsible to act on
I think it's irresponsible to act on what he based it on. He based it on something from Prince William County.
And he also based it on the dictionary.
The dictionary?
The dictionary. The dictionary that says, explains what operations and maintenance
He didn't give us that in writing. He said that he found 4 other county attorneys that agreed with him out of 95.
Right. So, let's just say, for example,
There's
something
95
wrong with
county
legally,
attorneys.
it goes down on his shoulders, not ours.
No, he bears no responsibility. We
He
bear.
gave us a legal opinion.
But he bears no responsibility. We do.
Well, anyway, I'm willing to take that risk.
Well, I don't know if I would use the word risk. I value the county attorney's opinion, and I saw what he wrote about Prince William County. I think it has been looked at.
But what he wrote about Prince William County, the section of that letter that applies to the use of fire levy funds, was for counties that have 500 inhabitants per square mile.
I would have to pull this out and look at it again, but I didn't think that was I didn't think that necessarily nullified it for our application.
Well, I don't see how we can even tag on to something when it says counties adjacent to counties that have 500 inhabitants per square mile. Did y'all not read that? I'm asking you a question because I read it. I'm just wondering if anybody else read it.
I did not see anything about population in the opinion.
Then you didn't read it.
Well,
He's basing his logic is based on a county attorney's opinion from Prince William County that cites the language from a 2007 county attorney opinion that says in counties adjacent to counties with 500 inhabitants per square mile. And y'all didn't read that?
No, I didn't read that. I
Well,
talked to him, I don't think that is the sole basis of his opinion. I think it's just part of it.
He said that his opinion was in agreement with 4 other county attorneys. And in fact, there's 95 counties in Virginia. It's kind of frightening when you're only basing it on what 4 others did instead of what the Attorney General's opinion is. But the Attorney General's opinion is the one that this board asked for, and we didn't get it. Now we're going to go on an opinion that's based on a 2007 opinion that quotes the comment, counties adjacent to counties with 500 inhabitants per square mile, and y'all didn't read that?
Well, let me ask
I
you
didn't read the population part. I didn't see that.
Well, Mr. Fraser, let me ask you this. If you don't want to use these monies toward the radios, how are you going to pay for the radios? Because we're obligated by contract.
Well, that's something we should have been talking about a week or 2 ago.
Well, then I don't know why you just raised this issue here tonight for the first time.
I haven't. I've been raising it for weeks.
I haven't heard it for weeks.
This is the first time I found out that we were going to, this past week, we never talked about that in the public meeting of this board, that we were going to cover that $90,000 deficit by draining everything out of the fire levy funds. And we still don't know if there's going to be any additional needs there.
Well, I can go back to these budget spreadsheets that date back at least a month and
I have raised this issue before. I have raised this issue before, yes, sir. that we shouldn't be spending all this unless we know for a fact that it's legal for one thing. And to take all that money, there may be other fire and rescue needs.
I mean, we have multiple budget work sessions where we could have been dealing with this issue.
We could have been.
We could have been, but we didn't have a problem with it. It was plain to us that this money we felt was,
I've asked you
suitable
gentlemen
for
the
public
same
safety.
questions. I'm sorry, but I've asked these same questions. I have.
and we're giving the same answers, Mr. Chairman, so we're going around and around here. Obviously, we're not going to agree on this thing, so I don't know.
I just think that this board is going to make this type of vote, and the public needs to know this stuff.
I would love the public to know that we're not going to raise their taxes 2 cents.
Well, I mean, that's a good thing, but are we doing it legally? And are we doing it in good faith?
Okay.
Because if,
I don't think, Mr. Frazier, we have to worry about good faith.
good faith, sir, if we don't know if there's any other issues coming along with fire and rescue, sometimes we've made emergency appropriations for I think every one of the departments. Where would that money come from this year if we do this?
Well,
We'll raise taxes.
You can't raise taxes after this. This is it.
Oh, no.
I'm just saying, what would happen if somebody comes up with an emergency appropriations request? What are we going to do if we've already completed all the fire levy funds?
You know, this budget is so lean. This is one of the leanest budgets we've probably ever put forward, partly because of the ability of the treasurer putting things on the computer where we can look at line items all the way down and compare to past years. We've created such a lean budget that if anything happens, we don't have the money in any place. It basically comes down to if something big happens, we'll probably have to borrow money. We have one lean, mean budget here.
It may very well be.
it's a lean, mean budget, but it's a very knowledgeable budget.
It's
To
very
your point,
knowledgeable.
Mike, I think it's been scrubbed harder, gets scrubbed a little better through all the eyes that, all the eyes that are looking at this budget and all the, all the resources that are being brought to this. I think it's a much more solid budget exercise, hearing from you gentlemen, than what's been done in the past. So even though you can
do
never,
anything. We just simply didn't do anything.
well, I would love to be at the point somewhere in the budget process, and I hear the public saying, you ought to be doing long-range planning, and I get that, and we should be. And I think maybe we're getting to the point where we can turn the corner and do that, because we technically should have some kind of a contingency fund. We really should, and maybe that's something that we can focus on for FY19. But we've got this, very large payment for these radios and this tower that we've got to come up with here for a very important reason, and we have the means by which to pay for it without going into debt or increasing the tax burden on the people. I think it's the right thing to do.
It very well be. I'm just bringing these points out because they've not been discussed, the what ifs.
Well, thank you, Ron, for doing that.
I'd like to thank everybody that was in the process of creating this budget. Debbie Kaiser, Debbie Nick, all the gentlemen here. I think this is, as John said, one of the budgets that have really been gone over much closer, with much more thought than we've ever. Well, partly had the knowledge, past knowledge from the bookkeeping side of it to look at it. So, I think it's been a very good process, even though there's probably still some issues, but, the 2 years in a row not to raise taxes when property values haven't really gone up is pretty amazing. So, I thank everybody.
Well, all we got left is the new business here,
Right.
which is a reminder that we're going to adopt the budget on June 5th, 2017 at the board meeting, and on June 29th, we're going to conclude the year with final invoices. So with that, I make a motion we adjourn.
Discussion, I guess. We're not going to see a bunch of, and I missed the last meeting. I'm just hoping we won't see a bunch of invoices in that meeting that hadn't been discussed previously by the board. So many issues there that will happen.
Correct, you won't.
Army trucks or,
Are you going to be?
I plan on. I can't tell you why I missed the last one. I have no idea.
I'll make a motion to adjourn, or did you make a motion?
I made a motion.
I'll second.
Motion made and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed,